students. Welcome to the formal induction ceremony for students participating in the Force. I'm John Turner, I'm the Associate Dean of Student Development here at Lone Star College Kingwood. It's my pleasure to welcome you today. Please envision the word force, as you can see to my right. In this context, it's broken into two components, the word for and the last two letters, the C and the E. The force can be read like this, for CE, for collaborative effort, for campus enrichment, for caring environments, for community engagement, for creating excellence. The Force is a holistic advising student services program made possible by the LSC Foundation. Students were referred to the Force by faculty, staff, and community members, and being a part of the Force means working closely with advisors. Students will help advisors to better support students, and advisors will help students to complete goals. We are fortunate today to have Dr. Guadalupe Quintanilla, President of the Cross-Cultural Communication Center of Houston, and Associate Professor of the Department of Hispanic and Classical Languages at the University of Houston. Dr. Quintanilla is very active in community affairs and serves on numerous boards and commissions at local, state, and national levels. The cross-cultural communication program that Dr. Quintanilla developed for the law enforcement officers was selected during the past 7 years by the Department of Defense and by the Department of Justice as the best of its type in the country. Dr. Quintanilla has received under different presidents several nominations and appointments. She was the first Hispanic U.S. representative to the United Nations. She was the first Hispanic to serve as international correspondent for the United Nations, as co-chair to the National Institute of Justice, and as co-chair to the National Commission on Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans. Dr. Quintanilla's latest nomination was as Assistant Attorney General of the United States. Other honors include induction to the National Hispanic Hall of Fame and to the Hispanic Women Hall of Fame. Without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Guadalupe Quintanilla.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me with you. And above all, thank you for making me feel like a part of this wonderful family. I had the opportunity to meet many of you. Thank you for such a welcome. And thank you for having a podium that I can reach. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually the podium is up to here. And then I can only see the top of people's head, and people cannot see me. But I spoke in Laredo some time ago, and the podium was up to here. And somebody had the wonderful idea of putting a board under my feet, and then I could see the audience, and the audience could see me. The problem was, my heels kept going on and off the board. People thought I was trying to dance. But very seriously, thank you for having me. You heard that I work at the University of Houston. I spent 27 years in administration there, in the provost office. I have been a faculty member at the University of Houston for many years and have published extensively, and have also developed quite a lot of classes for the university, something like 17 courses for the University of Houston. So I have had quite a track in academia. But also you heard that I have done a lot of work with law enforcement entities. I developed a program many years ago, something like 40 years ago, cross-cultural communication, because of what I wanted to see or perceived as use and abuse of force against citizens. And I just wanted to do something, and so I developed a program that has become very successful, and we have worked with that program all over the country. So you also heard that I have worked under different presidents of the United States, and I have received different appointments to different institutions, and as an ambassador to the United Nations, I had the opportunity to travel all over the world and to meet many presidents and to learn from them, presidents of countries and to share with them. And as you're sitting there thinking, and what does that all have to do with us? Well, let me tell you why I tell you what I'm doing now. Because as you are listening to me, you are listening to a person who, according to the school system in the state of Texas, is a mentally retarded individual. And Reader's Digest wrote my story, some years back. When they called me, I thought they wanted to just talk to me. I thought they only condensed books. I didn't know they were going to write about me, but they did. And the story was published in different languages all over the world. But when they called me, they did quite a lot of research, because for every word that you read in Reader's Digest, they have to have two verifiable sources or they don't print it. And they pulled my records, and sure enough, I'm still retarded according to the state of Texas. So the point is that it's not that the system decided that I was retarded. The problem is that I believed it. And that was the really bad problem. Because I believed it. I believed that I did not have the ability to learn. And I grew up thinking that way. Now I'll tell you how that happened. I grew up in Mexico and with my grandparents, and my grandfather lost his eyesight. So we came to the United States looking for medical help for my grandfather. And my parents lived in Brownsville, Texas. How many of you know where Brownsville, Texas is? Right on the border. So my parents lived there. So we came to Brownsville to look for medical help for my grandfather. And my parents immediately took me to school. There's a stereotype that floats sometimes. It says that parents from minority communities do not really care about the education of their children. And you know that it cannot be farthest from the truth. Parents care of all colors and socioeconomic backgrounds. 99.9% of the parents care. But sometimes we give signs that are misread. In the Hispanic world, for example, recent arrivals many times do not attend PTAs and do not go to school and do not come to the meetings, because in the Latin countries, the idea is that teachers are the second parents. And therefore, you don't question what teachers do or teachers say. So parents do not interfere with the school. It is seen as interference. So many parents do not come to the school, and that's misread sometimes as they don't care. My parents care like anybody else, and immediately they took me to school, where I was given an IQ test in English. I spoke only Spanish, so I scored so low on my IQ exam that I'm classified as a vegetable, not even a trainable person. So as I said, I believed it. And years passed, and I got married very young, and I had 3 wonderful children. And when the system decided that my children were yellow birds, because in Texas, you're too young to remember in this audience, but in Texas, in order to be nice to the children, we did not call them slow learners or retarded at the time. We called them yellow birds. And the bright ones and the college-bound ones were red. But the system said mine were yellow. How many of you have children in this place? Okay? Those of you who have children understand a lot better than those who do not have children yet how tremendously painful it is when you think that you have done something that hurts your child. It hurts. It hurts more than if it happens to you. And I used to cry and cry thinking, my children, they took after me. And it was a very sad part of my life. Until one day I decided, wait a minute, how can my children be yellow birds? How can they not be able to learn? They learn the prayers I teach, the games we play, the dances we perform together. How is it that they cannot learn? And then, ladies and gentlemen, I learned rule number 1 to succeed. And I know you do it already, or you wouldn't be here. But that is, if you want something done for yourself or somebody you love, you better get in there and do it yourself, and not depend on anybody else to come and do it for you. But then I learned rule number 2. If you want to do something for yourself or somebody you love, you better learn everything that is to know about what you want to attack. And so, it took me a long time, ladies and gentlemen, to get the courage to go learn about the school where my children were. Because I gave myself all those excuses that we give ourselves. But I don't have anything to wear. I don't have transportation. But most important, who am I to question the school system? But I developed the courage, and I went. And I visited the classroom of one of my children. The name of the instructor was Miss Castro, the teacher. You know what I saw? I saw that every single yellow bird had brown or black skin. And that didn't make any sense to me. My children could have inherited my brain, but what about the others? And when I asked Miss Castro, she said, oh, no, that's the way it is. Well, that wasn't good enough for me. So it took another week for me to take the courage enough to go talk to the principal, Mrs. Gottlieb, in Russell Elementary School in Brownsville, Texas. And I went to talk to Mrs. Gottlieb. And I told her, I just wanted to understand why my children were classified as yellowbird. Why? They could learn at home. And she said, no, it's because you speak Spanish at home. Now we know that if the children develop their brains with 2 or 3 languages as they grow up, more exercise for the brain. But at the time, I believed it. And I said, okay, then I'm going to learn English. Nothing more difficult to do than to find a place to learn English in a small Texas town. Lucky for me. Because if I had found a place to learn English, I would have learned English and stopped. I couldn't find a place. And I went and I talked to Mrs. Gottlieb and I said, where do I go? And she said, go to the high school. Not as a student, but maybe they will let you stand in the classroom and listen to English classes being offered and you can pick up some words. And I went. And dear Mrs. Inglehorn, the counselor, I didn't find a wonderful counselor as the ones you have here. She said to me, but our records tell us you're retired. And you are going to be occupying a place that somebody can use, and we cannot have you. And then I went to Mercy Hospital, because I had volunteered my services to the hospital. I was one of those pink ladies that delivers the flowers and the mail. And I won a medal from Sister Polycarp, and I thought for sure she's going to let me sit where the nurses are learning English, not as a nurse, but just to pick up some words to help my children in school. And Sister Polycarp said, no, because you don't have a high school diploma. And then I went to the telephone company. I didn't want to be a telephone operator, but I figured if they're going to teach me English, I'm going to be one. And they told me, no, because you don't have a high school diploma. And then I went back to Mrs. Gottlieb and she said, go to the community college, not as a student, but maybe they can let you stand in the back of the room and you can pick up some words in English. And I went to the community college and I heard the same thing, no, because you don't have a high school diploma. Ladies and gentlemen, today as I'm standing before you, I do not have a high school diploma. I do not have a junior high school diploma, and I do not have an elementary school diploma either. I dropped out of first grade. So, I'm standing here with a bachelor, a master, a doctorate, and a lot of post-baccalaureate work. So what I want to leave you with is, when you feel that there's a lot of work, a lot of homework, a lot of problems, the weather, the parking, the teachers, the homework, think about me. If I'm standing here and I did it, you definitely can do it. No question about it. Because I skipped from first grade to college. And the reason I dropped out of first grade, ladies and gentlemen, when my parents took me to school, I was placed in first grade, but I was not allowed to play with the children. I was just cutting paper, little paper dolls to put in the classroom and take the children to the restroom. And I waited until the teacher took the children in recess and came back. And one day I was standing outside of the classroom waiting for the teacher to come back with the children. And I saw a man who came into the building. And he said, ¿Dónde está la oficina del principal? What does that mean? Where's the principal's office? I was so touched. I was so excited to hear somebody speaking the language of my soul. The language my mother spoke, the language my grandmother spoke, the language I could understand. And I told them, la oficina del principal está, and I don't remember what else I said, but I remember the teacher. Because she came from someplace, and she grabbed me by the arm, and she took me to the principal's office, and the principal and the teacher were very angry at me. And they told me all kinds of things, and I did not understand one word they said. They spoke English, right? But you know what happened? I saw the body language. And research has demonstrated very effectively that African Americans and Hispanic Americans read body language extraordinarily well. We don't need to be told, we can see. And I was so tremendously embarrassed by that. There was no force on this earth that was going to make me go to school the next day. And that's how I became a first grade dropout. By the way, most Hispanics are so sensitive to being embarrassed. The word doesn't even have, the language doesn't have a word to describe the feeling. We have tener vergüenza, and that means to be ashamed. But to be embarrassed, the closest one we have is embarazada. And what does that mean? To be pregnant. So, going back to the time that I was told, you don't have a high school diploma, you don't have a high school diploma. When I went to the community college, and the girl there, the young lady there said, you don't have a high school diploma, and I left. It was raining, and I was crying. And I couldn't even see where I was going because I was so heartbroken. And I felt like a barrier had fallen in front of me, like you couldn't go over it, and you cannot go under it, and you cannot go on the sides of it, and I felt defeated. And I thought, this is it. I'm going home, and I'm staying there. And I went home. Obviously, I didn't stay there. Because I got enough courage to send my children to school, my husband to work, my grandparents fed, and I went back to the community college. And this time, when she said, I already told you, you don't have a high school diploma. I left the office, I stopped the first student who was going by. His name is Joe Gavito. He's now the city manager in Brownsville. And I said, who makes the decisions in this place? He didn't tell me the president, he said the registrar. And my next question was, where does he park? Because I knew they were not going to let me into his office. And his name is Henry Warren. Several publications have written about me and interviewed Mr. Warren. He died recently. But he remembered me, who wouldn't? He found me sitting on top of his car. And I told them, solamente quiero aprender inglés para ayudarles a mis hijos en la escuela. And that means I want to learn English to help my children in school. And his response was, tiene $25. What does that mean? You didn't know I was going to text you in Spanish, huh? Do you have $25? I didn't have 25 cents, much less $25. He wanted me to take the GED, but I knew I wouldn't pass it. Up to that point, I thought algebra was some kind of spaghetti. I didn't know that you needed a pencil. So I told them I wouldn't pass it. And do you know, Mr. Warren gave me the opportunity to be admitted into Texas Southmost College on an individual approval basis. And he said to me, if you don't make it, don't bother me again. Well, with those encouraging words, I started. Okay? Now, at the time, in Brownsville, we didn't have any adults in the classroom. The students thought I was a plant from the administration. When we move in academia, ladies and gentlemen, we forget how intimidating we can be. We are an intimidating bunch. And I was so scared. And I spent days without drinking water because I was too embarrassed to ask, and I didn't know where to push. And it was a nightmare, but a very well worth it nightmare. Because once the students realize, by the way, students, pay attention to this, but when they realized that I was having trouble, but that I was sincere and that I was not from the administration, they decided to help me. And thanks to the students who taught me what an outline was, I didn't know what an outline was, and who coached me on how to learn vocabulary, and who mentored me in algebra. Gosh, algebra scared me to death. Anybody shares that with me? Oh, Chucks, algebra. He used to get me physically ill. Seriously. He used to get me physically ill. And do you know that thanks to the students, I started learning how to learn. And after I learned, it became a lot easier, with one exception. I thought I had failed an algebra exam. And I was so embarrassed and so tired of running home and washing and cleaning and cooking and taking care of my grandparents and the 3 children and my husband and running on the bus over to the school and doing homework from 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I thought I failed the algebra exam, and I thought, I'm not going to school anymore. And do you know what saved me? A faculty person from the school, her name is Mrs. Owe, because she called me. And I was so touched by the fact that she called me, and she said, you have to come and talk to me. And I went. And I always say that she gave me my gift of CPS, and that stands for the following. No, I thought she cared enough about me to call me. And the P and the S, she gave me the power to understand that I have control over my own life. That counselors, faculty people, administrators, your parents, everybody is here to help you and support you. But ultimately, the power is in you. You are the ones who determine what is it that you want to do with your life. And I always ask my students at the University of Houston to learn 2 lines from a poem that inspired me a lot, and I hope you remember it. This was Amado Nervo, a Mexican poet who wrote a poem to life. When he was dying, he wrote it to life. And the 2 lines that I like a lot, and that I use as my banner to succeed. go like this. Al llegar al final de mi largo camino, sé que fui el arquitecto de mi propio destino. And this means when I got to the end of my long journey in life, I realized that I was the architect of my own destiny. The challenge is realize it before you get to the end of your life. And I did. And so once I learned how to learn, there was no stopping me. Then I went to the master's, and then I went to the doctorate, and it becomes easier as you go along, by the way. And you have the talent, and the determination, and the discipline to go all the way, but not only by yourselves, but bring somebody else with you. Remember I said, the students helped me. If it wasn't for the students, and the instructor who called me, and made me feel capable, gave me power, and made me feel significant. She cared enough about me to make me feel significant. So, you need to help somebody else. You need to help at least one more student and bring that student with you and encourage the student. Because it's very normal to feel discouraged. It's absolutely human to feel discouraged. The key is don't let it bring you down. And you need to help somebody else. You need to bring somebody else with you. By the way, my 3 yellow birds, I adopted a son, grown up already, but my 3 yellow birds, I have 2 attorneys, 1 medical doctor, and the adopted one is also a medical doctor. So when somebody calls my house and they ask for Dr. Quintanilla, which one? There's at least 4 of us. 1 retired and 3 slow learners, according to the school system. So, to close, because I was supposed to speak 20 minutes, but I talk too much all the time. To close, I just wanted to tell you, and I always close like this, because I have a little poem that I like a lot, and it defines what we in academia consider success. And before I finished and close, to the counselors, and to the faculty people, and to the staff who support you and who are responsible for the force, thank you for caring. Thank you for caring for the students, because you are giving them the wings they need. Thank you for doing it. Let me read you this little poem, because I think for faculty, advisors, counselors, staff, it reads like this. Success is speaking words of praise. It's cheering other people's ways. It's doing just the best you can with every task and every plan. It's silence when your speech would hurt, politeness when your students call. It's loyalty when duty calls. It's courage when disaster falls. It's patience when the hours are long. It's found in laughter and in song. It's in the silent time of prayer. It is in happiness and in despair. In all of life and nothing less, we find the thing we call success. Thank you so much for listening to me.
I'd just like to say thank you to Dr. Quintanilla. Hers is a lesson that we could all learn from, should all learn from. Very motivational, inspiring. It's now time to induct the first cohort of students. Students, if you will, please join me on the platform to my left. And then if our advising team would join me on the stage to my right. First member of the force is a very artistic, talented student who recently transferred from Tyler Junior College. She is currently working on her associate's degree in visual communications. Ayla Ishram. Next is a mother and a wife. She has been struggling with math, but has recently received an A on a math assignment. She never gives up and loves to help others. She received a 3.0 GPA her first semester and says that raising her children is her biggest accomplishment. Kimmy Elliott. Our next student is in his second semester at Lone Star College, Kingwood. He is planning to become a social worker so that he may help others. He is determined, hardworking, and reliable. He describes himself as being shy. However, the ideas he shared with Student Success course have been an inspiration to advisors as well as to those who know him. Corinthian Harrell. Next is a student who loves sports. She is the basketball manager of the Coyotes. She also plays baseball and is accurately described as being energetic. She too is good at sharing ideas that help other students. She is an only child, but she is happy to have many great and supportive friends. Crystal Holmes. Our next student is 19 years old, loves going to the gym, and is from Bolivia. He has only been in the United States approximately 2 months. Currently, he is taking English classes, but he plans to major in engineering and one day have a PhD. Jose Landau. Next is a student who has been homeschooled since 2nd grade. She has lived in California, Virginia, New York, and Texas. She enjoys creating things and likes to knit, sew, and weave. She has many other interests and is currently having trouble selecting a major because she loves both art and science. She is considering becoming an animator, filmmaker, or engineer. Isabella Noble. Next is a 21-year-old student who aspires to be the greatest scientist who has ever lived, so that he may save lives and help people live longer. He also likes anime and describes himself as a nice and kind person. His ultimate goal is to help change the world. Nathaniel Suarez. Our next inductee is from Valencia, Venezuela. He is an active member of the International Student Organization and has been present at numerous civic engagement activities on and off campus. He is a great role model for students who want to get involved. Jan Rodriguez. Next is a student who describes himself as being very competitive and goal-oriented. He says that when he wants something, he is very motivated, and he is a helpful and kind person. Sergio Trejo. Our next student is majoring in the field of criminal justice. She aspires to work for an organization that helps people, especially children in poor countries. She has participated in numerous community service projects and has served as a member of Junior Chamber International, where she helped provide school supplies for children in need. Isis Vasquez. Next, we have a 19-year-old student from Honduras. She loves the arts, but is currently undecided about her major. She is bilingual and is an active member of both Voices Latinas and the International Student Organization. Jessie Luan Valladares. Our final member is a young man who plans to transfer to Sam Houston State University. He also wishes to join the Air Force. He describes himself as compassionate and caring and believes in putting the needs of others before the needs of himself. Adam Wade. Thank you, Ariana, and thank you, Professor Wyland. As we conclude today's induction ceremony, this symbolizes our students really becoming a force. And on behalf of the many administrators I see here, we're so fortunate that we have, from administrative services to instruction to student services, so many administrators and faculty and staff in the audience today just because of you guys, because we're here to support you. That's our job. And your success is our success. Thank you all for coming today. Have a wonderful afternoon.